we have discussed that when an enzyme catalyzed reaction takes place, the activation energy is reduced, or the enzyme, it stabilizes the reactant at a lower activation energy. That is the amount of energy required to stabilize the reactant, or in biochemistry we call that reactant as a substrate, so that it can form the product. So the mechanism of action of enzyme is, the enzyme, when it is added up in a biochemical reaction, it stabilizes the substrate at a lower activation energy and forms the desired product. Therefore, it enhances the rate of reaction. Next, we have discussed about this activation energy. It is important to remember that the enzymes, they do not it is important to remember that the enzymes do not change the reaction's delta G, that is delta free energy of a reaction, that is the amount of energy required to do the work. In other words, they do not change whether a reaction is exergonic, that is spontaneous, or endergonic. So the direction of reaction is not altered by addition of an enzyme. All this thing we have discussed in our last lecture. Next, we have also discussed about this coenzymes. Coenzymes, these are the molecules, or these are non-proteinaceous components which are essential for the activity of enzymes. They can be organic or they can be inorganic in nature. The organic molecules, like we have discussed, they can be referred to as an coenzymes because their activity is needed for the functioning of an enzyme. So the enzyme will be incomplete if it requires an additional molecule. Non-proteinaceous component, we can call them as a prosthetic group. It is essentially required for the activity of an enzyme. Then we have discussed about the molecules like enzyme, as they do not get themselves altered in the reaction, or in some of the reactions where high energy molecules or stabilization of a compound has to be formed, that is the transfer of phosphate group or like such. In that case, the NAD or FAD like molecules, which is energy rich molecule, is required. Then we have discussed this terminology, that is what is apoenzyme. It is incomplete or inactive enzyme when it gets a cofactor, suitable cofactor like Mg++ or Fe++, or depends upon the type of enzyme. It forms a holoenzyme or a complete enzyme, or we can call it as an active enzyme. So enzyme, apoenzyme, this is in case where the coenzyme is required. Not all enzymes they require that, okay, but we have encountered, or we have discussed many enzymes which do require the coenzyme or cofactor. Then we have discussed also that what are coenzymes. Most of them are the vitamins. The vitamins, they act as a coenzyme. Like in this chart we have discussed that biotin or vitamin 7 is acting as a coenzyme for the reaction of carboxylation, so addition or removal of carbon dioxide. At every reaction or at every stage we find the biotin is present over there. Then cobalamin for alkylation, for coenzyme for acyl transferase, that is fatty acid synthesis and breakdown pathways. Then flavin coenzyme for the oxidation reduction reaction, lipoic acid acyl transfer, nicotinamide coenzyme for the oxidation reduction reaction, pyridoxal phosphate for the amino acid group transfer, tetrahydrofolate THF for one carbon compound transfer, then thymine pyrophosphate for aldehyde group transfer. Then what happens if there is a deficiency of these vitamins? We know it can lead to several different types of diseases that can cause, the deficiency of B12 can cause anemia, pernicious anemia, deficiency of folic acid THF, it can lead to megaloblastic anemia and likewise. So that means these vitamins, though they are required in very trace amount or very low amount, but they are essential for the activity of enzyme and for the activity of the cellular system. Then we have discussed about this Michaelis-Menten equation. Michaelis-Menten equation has been proposed to explain the mechanism of action of an enzyme. How the enzyme it interacts with the substrate and forms a product. So Michaelis and Menten in 1913 they have proposed an hypothesis based upon the following assumption that only one single substrate and having a or it is going to form only a single product. The process it proceeds essentially to the completion. That means the reaction will completely or it will always move to the completion. The concentration of substrate is present in greater quantity, that is the enzyme should be always saturated with the substrate so that it can work with its maximum efficiency. Then the intermediate enzyme substrate complex is formed, that is the substrate is stabilized by an enzyme, and next the rate of decomposition of the substrate is proportional to the concentration of enzyme substrate complex. So based upon these assumptions, Michaelis and Menten has given this equation. What they have pointed out is enzyme when allowed to interact with the substrate, it do not directly form the product. This enzyme when interacts with the substrate, it forms an intermediate complex. We call it as an ES complex. That is this given in the bracket. So they are weakly bounded, and as we can see it can move back and it can move forward. But one thing is to be pointed out here, that whenever this ES complex it is a stabilized or it is a transient complex, it will always or there is a higher chances that it will be converted out into product and the enzyme can be recycled. So what Michaelis and Menten has proposed is the enzyme it interacts with the substrate and gets stabilized, forming an ES complex, and they have devised or they have given a proposed an equation for that. So this is V is equal to Vmax S upon Km plus S. So this is the velocity of a reaction. So at any time we can calculate this. It is equal to the Vmax, the maximum velocity with which the enzyme can work, the maximum efficiency with which it can form or it can convert the desired substrate into product. It has been multiplied by the substrate, it is divided upon the Km. Km is the Michaelis-Menten constant. We know Km is half of the Vmax, that is the concentration of the substrate at which the enzyme is saturated. So plus along with that plus the concentration of substrate. So they have given this equation. We have discussed this in detail in our last lecture, where V is the velocity or speed of a reaction, Vmax is the maximum velocity of a reaction. So at any time if you want to calculate the velocity of a reaction, we can use this equation. So you must know the Vmax of a reaction, but Vmax it is very difficult for us to identify because we can't every time identify with what much efficiency or with what much speed or velocity the reaction is taking place. Next, Vmax is equal to maximum velocity of a reaction. S is the substrate concentration and Km is the Michaelis-Menten concentration. Sorry, Michaelis-Menten constant. So this particular graph is considered for an enzyme which interacts with only one substrate, that is an enzyme having only one catalytic site interacting with only one substrate. It will give this type of curve. This curve is referred to as an hyperbolic curve. So here on x-axis we find there is the concentration of a substrate, on y-axis there is the velocity of a reaction. So this dotted line it indicates the Vmax, that is the maximum velocity with which the enzyme can act. But as we can find, this line, this hyperbolic line, it keeps on moving. If we keep on increasing the length of this graph, we'll find it is very rare, or it will be very difficult to identify when this point will, or when this line will touch this particular line. So for the sake of simplicity, as like we can use the T half, that is the radioactivity half-life period. Likewise, in denaturation of DNA, we take Tm value. Likewise, in order to identify the Vmax of an enzyme, the Michaelis and Menten has taken the half of the velocity at which it can stabilize, and they have extrapolated it on x-axis, so and given the name as in Km. So Km is Michaelis-Menten constant. Km or Michaelis-Menten constant is the concentration of substrate. Here we can find on x-axis there is a concentration of substrate. So Km is the concentration of the substrate at which the enzyme is halfly saturated with, that is the Vmax by 2. We can say this as a velocity, that is half of the velocity, and the concentration at which the enzyme is halfly saturated, or it is working, the velocity has been half of the maximum velocity it can work with. So that value has been extrapolated on x-axis, and it indicates the Michaelis-Menten constant. Then we have discussed about why to calculate this Michaelis-Menten equation, or why to calculate this Km value. This Michaelis-Menten constant or Km value, it is a significance of an enzyme. That is, it can identify, based upon the Km value, we can identify, we can differentiate the activity of an enzyme. How much affinity do the enzyme have for its substrate? Lower the Km value, higher the affinity of an enzyme towards its substrate. As the Km value increases, it signifies that there is lower affinity of enzyme towards its substrate. Many other things can be elucidated or can be identified using the Km value. Km value is used to measure the enzyme's affinity for its substrate. That is, the lower the Km, higher the affinity of an enzyme towards the substrate. Means if we have added one enzyme and it is having larger affinity towards its substrate. So in a reaction, if the substrate is there and we have added an enzyme having low Km value, it will readily combine with it and start the biochemical reaction. Km value also provides an idea of the strength of binding of a substrate to the enzyme molecule. That is, lower the Km, more tightly the substrate can be bound. Obviously, if an enzyme it has affinity towards the substrate, it indicates it will have a higher binding capacity. That is, if they have opposite charge, or they have the groups which have opposite charge, let's say amino acid, plus charge amino acid, if it is present in the active site of an enzyme, it will readily identify the negatively charged amino acid on the product, on the substrate, if the substrate was a proteinaceous. And same is true for the larger Km value. If the Km is larger, so the strength of binding will be looser, or it will be weaker. The Km value indicates the lowest concentration of a substrate that enzyme can recognize before the reaction catalysis can occur. Now this value is very important to design in diagnostics or in various types of biological experiments. We can add a particular concentration of an enzyme, we can add a particular concentration of a substrate. So based upon the Km value, if we know the Km value of a particular enzyme, it will be easier for us to add a particular volume of, or a particular concentration of enzyme, substrate, and the other component required for the reaction. An enzyme's Km describes the substrate concentration at which half the enzyme's active site is occupied, that is Vmax by 2. Km value is also known as a measure of substrate concentration when reaction rate is half, that is half the concentration at which the enzyme is saturated. So that is Km is equal to S in bracket S means concentration of a substrate. So Km is equal to S at half of the Vmax. So make it clear how the Km is related with the Vmax and how Km is related with the substrate concentration. When Km is equal to S at half of the Vmax, the maximal rate, that is Vmax, reveals the turnover number of an enzyme. Turnover number we have discussed in our earlier classes. It is the conversion of a substrate into product in unit time. That is हम इसको speed भी कह सकते हैं, the activity of enzyme भी कह सकते हैं. How many substrate are converted into desired product in unit time. That unit time can be second, it can be millisecond, it can be any other time duration. Considering, and again we know this, the turnover number, it varies with the enzyme. Not all enzymes are that efficient. Some enzymes like lysozyme, its turnover number is 10, while carbonic anhydrase comparatively fast enzyme, and it can convert 6 lakh substrate into product per second or per unit time. Now till this we have discussed thoroughly in our last lecture, and today's lecture we will discuss about the factors affecting enzyme activity. Now before starting this, we must make it very clear that most of the enzymes, they are proteinaceous in nature, and the proteins, they can be affected by the surrounding conditions. That is, we know that proteins or these enzymes, they function in their secondary, tertiary or quaternary structure. That is, they are again cellular proteins. Obviously this secondary, tertiary, quaternary structures, they are formed by weaker bonds. So these weak bonds can be formed and broken down easily if we alter the surrounding temperature, pH or any other atmospheric conditions. So the same implies for the enzymes. If this implies for the proteins, obviously most enzymes are proteinaceous in nature, and if we increase a temperature, if we change the pH or if we change the substrate concentration, the activity of enzyme will significantly alter. How this is going to change and what are the particular terminologies we must remember while discussing about enzymology or enzyme activity, we'll discuss in today's lecture. Now activity of an enzyme is affected by its environmental conditions. Changing this alters the rate of reaction. Changing this alters the rate of reaction caused by the enzyme. In nature, organisms adjust the condition of their enzyme to produce an optimum. So here the word is used, optimum rate of reaction. Where necessary, or they may have enzymes which are adapted to function well in extreme conditions where they live. What it indicates is the proteins or the enzymes. So for the sake of simplicity, for today's lecture, for the today's discussion, we'll consider that all enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. So it will be very clear for us to understand. So consider that a protein can be stabilized at a particular given condition. So this protein, if it's functioning at a particular temperature or at a particular pH or at a particular condition, if we alter or if we make some change plus or minus in that condition, what will happen? The protein will not immediately get denatured. It will slowly and gradually, it will try to change its structure. It depends upon how much deviation has been taking place in the given condition. If a protein or if an enzyme is optimum or it is functioning best, optimum means it is functioning best or working with its maximum efficiency, that is optimum. So for example, a protein or an enzyme is best working at say pH 7 at 37 degrees Celsius. So we'll consider only one parameter at a time, say 37 degrees Celsius. So if we increase the temperature from 37 to say 37.5 or 37.1, gradually 37.2, 37.3, 37.4, what will happen? It will not happen that the protein will completely stop from functioning. But as we keep on increasing the temperature from 37 to say 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 45 or 50. So as we keep on increasing, so this change in temperature or change in the condition, if it is very significant or if it is very large, the protein may get denatured. Here I am using the word, it gets denatured. That is, it will lose its higher order of structure, because these structures, they were formed by weak interactions involving hydrogen bonds, hydrophobic bonds, or van der Waals forces, or any other such types of interactions. Because of this when the condition changes, this enzyme may lose its activity. But the problem is, or we can find there is a solution also. If we revert the condition back to its normal, these enzymes or these proteins, they can renature themselves without employing any additional forces, because these weak interactions, hydrogen bond, hydrophobic bond, ionic forces or van der Waals forces, they were formed by the protein itself, employing the primary structure. Based upon the primary structure, they have attained the secondary structure, tertiary structure and quaternary structure. But if we increase the temperature or if we alter the pH, these enzymes have lost that particular structure. When we revert back, or when we allow the protein to cool down or to acquire or to move to its earlier condition, the enzyme or these proteins will again try to renature. That is denaturation and renaturation. So this we have also discussed while talking about the DNA. So DNA, when subjected to heat, it gets denatured, and for that we can identify a word, or we have used a word, we call it as a Tm value. Tm value is the half of the temperature at which the DNA is denatured, or half of the DNA is denatured. So based upon that Tm value, we can identify the strength of DNA, or we can identify the percentage of G+C contained in a DNA. So ये एक parameter है, this is a parameter to identify the stability of a DNA. If an organism is having higher Tm value, means the organism is comparatively having stable DNA, or the DNA is stable at a higher temperature or elevated temperature condition. But if the Tm value is low, it indicates it is not stable, or it is lacking the, in case of DNA, the G+C content is comparatively lower and presence of A and T is comparatively higher. So keeping in this mind, we will continue this. The enzymes or proteins, they are secondary, tertiary or quaternary structures. They are stabilized by weak bonds. When we heat it, or when we increases the pH or we alter the pH, these bonds will get denatured to a to a significant extent. This change is allowed. But again, say for example, we have taken a protein and we have subjected, suppose हमने कोई protein लिया and we have subjected it to the heat, and the temperature has rise from say 37 degrees Celsius to 38, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 70, 80, 100, 100 or more than 100. What will happen? Obviously, the protein will lose its complete structure. So we use the word now here, it will get degraded, it will get burned out. So because of the extreme heat, what has happened? The protein or whatever the molecule may be, it has lost its primary structure. So any such change which affects the primary structure of a molecule. If it gets or it happens, we call that molecule is degraded. So it has lost its identity. Now again, if you revert back to the normal condition, this molecule will not assemble or it will not form the original molecule. The molecule, if it is denatured, it can be renatured, but if it is degraded, we can't renature it, or we can't form it back to its normal or original position. I hope this is clear. Now these enzymes, they are functioning at an optimum condition, means at a particular temperature, at a particular pH, or at a particular condition, they work with maximum efficiency. That is, say for a shorter span of time, or for a particular pH, or at a particular temperature, the enzyme will convert this substrate into product with maximum efficiency. We call this as an optimum condition. Now temperature, we'll take this example first. Temperature is one of the important parameters that affects the activity of an enzyme. Increasing temperature, it increases the kinetic energy of that molecule. So when one energy is transformed to another, obviously it will gain that energy. And in a fluid, this means there will be more random collision. More random collision will be there in the molecule per unit time. As it was earlier, comparative to that, if you heat it, the kinetic energy will be added to it and it will increase the collision, random collision between the molecules. Since enzyme catalyzes the reactions by randomly coiling with substrate, it increasing temperature increases the rate of reaction. Now here is something very unique thing we are learning. When we subject, or if we add some heat to it, or we add an energy to it, to certain or significant extent, by adding this heat or by adding this energy, there will be random collision, and this can increases the rate of reaction, but up to a significant extent. However, increasing temperature also increases the vibrational energy that molecules have, specifically in the case of enzyme molecule, which puts strain on the bond that holds them together. So obviously, अगर weak bonds है, and if you provide maximum or larger amount of heat to it, what will happen? It will make that bond to break down. So it will lose down the higher order of structure, and at the particular moment it will lose down its activity. So increasing the temperature can increase the activity of an enzyme to certain extent. After that, it will have to, if we keep on increasing the temperature, or if we keep on increasing that parameter, the activity or the nature of enzyme will get completely collapsed and it will not function. As the temperature increases, more bonds, especially the weaker bonds like hydrogen ionic bonds, ionic forces in particular, will break as a result of this strain. Breaking bonds within the enzyme will cause the active site to change its shape. Now, this change in shape, it can have two implications. One is the enzyme may identify substrate like, so alike molecules, it may interact with it and can form the product. So it may lose its activity, but overall the turnover number may enhance, so may get increased. But at the same time, if the enzyme was very specific, it will completely lose that activity and it will not identify the substrate. So both things can happen. That is, this change in shape means the active site is less complementary to the shape of the substrate, so that less likely to catalyze the reaction. Eventually the enzyme will become denatured and will no longer function. So denature means it has lost its higher order of structure, that is secondary, tertiary or quaternary structure. As the temperature increases, more enzyme molecules active shape will be less complementary to the shape and more enzymes will be denatured. This will decrease the rate of reaction. So as we keep on increasing the temperature, the activity or the turnover number of an enzyme will keep on decreasing. Initially it will increase and later on it will decrease. In summary, such temperature rise or increase, initially the rate of reaction will increase. That is what we have discussed. Initially it will enhance the rate of reaction because the increased kinetic energy. However, the effect of bond breaking will become greater and greater and the rate of reaction will begin to decrease. So here we can find this graph. This, on an x-axis there is a temperature and on y-axis there is increasing enzyme activity. So we are comparing here the activity of enzyme against the temperature. So here we can see starting from 0 degree Celsius to 70 degree Celsius. So on this range we will check the activity of an enzyme. The temperature at which the maximum rate of reaction occur is referred to as an optimum. So here we can find this is a bell-shaped like curve. This curve, bell-shaped curve है. So here what we can see at a 0 or near 0 temperature, what happens? The enzyme has very low activity. Again, this is very important. Why do we refrigerate our kits or why do we refrigerate our enzymes? The condition is, or the significance is, at a lower temperature the activity of enzyme is significantly reduced. It is not so that it is completely stopped, but it has been reduced to a larger extent. So here we can find that this curve or this line is not touching the 0, means यहाँ पर activity 0 नहीं है. So it is non-zero activity. As we keep on lowering or as we keep on decreasing the temperature, this activity will be stopped or it will be lowered down, but will move in positive direction. If we increase the temperature say from 0 to 10 degrees Celsius, there is steep increase in the activity of an enzyme. So 0 to 10 there is comparatively larger activity of an enzyme. 10 to 20 again there is directly or significant increase or rise in the activity of an enzyme. If we keep on increasing the temperature from 20 to 30, again there is very or there is significant rise in the activity of an enzyme, and it moves maximum around say 37 or 38, and it can be retained or it can be maintained with this activity at a particular range, say from 37 to anything around 40 to 43. So this condition at which the enzyme is working with its maximum efficiency, that is rate of reaction is maximum. So this particular point is referred to as an optimum temperature condition. Here we are talking about the temperature, therefore it is optimum temperature with which the maximum the enzyme can function, that is it can convert the substrate into product. But as you keep on increasing this temperature, you will find that after say 40 to 43 degrees Celsius there is immediate shrink or there is immediately loss in the activity of an enzyme, and after say 60 to 63 degrees Celsius the enzyme has completely lost its activity. It is touching the zero activity. What it means? The enzyme has now got denatured. It has lost its activity because we have provided comparatively larger amount of heat to it. At initial stage we have found that increasing the temperature has increased the activity of an enzyme. So from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, even 30 to 37 or 40 degrees Celsius, there was increase in the activity of an enzyme. But after a particular stabilizing condition or maximum efficiency, when we enhanced or when we provided extra amount of heat, the enzyme lost its function and it got denatured. So this is what the conclusion is. The temperature, it can help to enhance or to increase the activity of enzyme to certain or significant extent. When it attains the optimum condition, enzyme functions with maximum efficiency. As we keep on increasing the temperature beyond the optimum temperature condition, it will lose its activity. And why it is losing this activity? The reason is the weaker bonds, they have been broken down. And we know that enzymes, they function only in their secondary, tertiary or quaternary structures. That is, we call them as a higher order of structures. If we broke down or if we denature this molecule, it will stop from functioning. Now this same implies for other environmental conditions, that is pH. pH, we know that pH scale, it starts from say 0 to 14. It can be anything from 0 to 14. 0 to 7 is the acidic condition. From 7 to 14 is the basicity. So some enzymes, again it depends upon what the enzymes are, what that protein is made up of. If the enzyme or that protein is rich in acidic amino acid, it may function under different conditions. If it is made up of or rich in basic amino acid, it may function differently. Both H plus and OH minus ions are charged and therefore interfere with the hydrogen and ionic bonds that holds together the enzyme. Since they will interact, or they are attracted or repelled by the charged molecules. This interference causes change in shape of the enzyme and importantly its active site. So we know that active site, it is a particular region, a particular site of an enzyme which interacts with the substrate. And most enzymes, they are proteinaceous in nature. So obviously this active site will be rich in one or the other type of amino acid. If we alter the pH, that is increase or decrease the pH, the H plus and OH minus ion concentration will vary. They will interact with this acidic or basic amino acid present in the active site, and the active site, which was supposed to interact with the substrate, will lose the activity and it will not bind with it, or it will lower down its, or it will, the efficiency will be altered. It can enhance or it can lower down. Now different enzymes have different optimum values. Again this implies to temperature also. The proteins or the enzymes which are required, say for a normal functioning or for the physiology of a cell, it may functions around 37 degrees Celsius. But an enzyme which is found in an organism collected from say hot water spring or some deep water vent, seawater vents or anything like that. Say for example, we'll take an example of the Thermus aquaticus. So we know that this Thermus aquaticus, it produces an enzyme, Taq polymerase. We use it in PCR, in amplification of the DNA, in thermal cyclers. Why we use it? Because we know that this particular DNA polymerase is stable at around 90 or more than that temperature condition, and it can function with its maximum efficiency at around that particular temperature condition, and it is not denatured. Now again the question goes, in both the organisms, say mesophilic organism or thermophilic organism, this activity is carried out by a protein. Then why one protein is stable at a particular temperature and why the other protein is stable at other temperature condition? Again the answer goes, what it is made up of, the type of amino acid it is made up of. If the amino acid, the sulfur containing amino acid is present in higher quantity, it can form the disulfide bond, and we know that disulfide bonds are stronger bonds. They are very hard to be broken by simply altering or increasing the temperature. Therefore, this extremophiles I'll use the word extremophiles, the organisms which can grow in extreme environmental condition. That can be the lowest of the temperature, or it can be maximum of the temperature. So it can be Arctic Antarctic Ocean, or it can be anything where the temperature is below 0 degree Celsius, say minus 10, 20 degree or less than that. Or it can be extreme of the temperature conditions, say hot water spring or acid lakes or methanogenic bacteria. So all these bacteria are organisms which can grow in extreme environmental conditions, extreme of the salt as well. As we see the sea water, it is very salty, but still we can find some organisms over there. So collectively they are called as an extremophiles. So these extremophiles, they are rich in sulfur containing amino acids. Because of that they form disulfide linkages and form or they stabilizes that particular protein. Next, the different enzymes have different optimum pH. The pH value at which the bonds within them are influenced by H plus and OH minus ion in such a way that the shape of the active site is most complementary to the shape of the substrate. Only then it will interact with the substrate and it will form the desired product. At the optimum pH, the rate of reaction is optimum. We have discussed this also while discussing the temperature condition. Any change in pH above or below the optimum will quickly cause a decrease. That is the bell-shaped curve. So optimum is a particular condition. Anything if you alter less than or greater than that, the rate of reaction will get affected. It will again lose down. Smaller change in pH above or below, that is again goes for the temperature also. Optimum change above or below, that is a small change around the optimum condition, do not cause permanent change in the enzyme since the bonds can be reformed. But extreme change will denature and may permanently lose the function of an enzyme. It may immediately degrade the structure of a protein. Enzymes in different locations have different optimum pH value since the environmental condition may be different. For example, pepsin functions best at around pH 2 as it is found in the stomach where the HCl is present in having pH around 2. So this is again on a x-axis we have taken pH and against pH we have compared the activity or the rate of enzyme activity. So we have got the bell-shaped curve. So at around 0 to 7, this particular pH, the activity of enzyme it keeps on increasing. At around 7 degrees Celsius, at 7 pH, say anything between 6.5 to 7.5, the enzyme is working with maximum efficiency. That is, we call it as an optimum pH. If we increases the pH further, that is basicity, the enzyme will lower down its activity. So any deviation from the optimum condition, it lowers down the activity of an enzyme. So take home lesson is the enzyme, they function best at a particular condition, and that condition is called or referred to as the optimum condition. So that can be a temperature, that can be a pH, or that can be even substrate concentration. That is the next parameter that affects the activity of enzyme is the concentration. Changing the enzyme and substrate concentration affect the rate of reaction. Controlling these factors in a cell one way that an organism regulates its enzyme activity and so its metabolism. Changing the concentration of a substrate only affects the rate of reaction if it is the limiting factor. Again, if it is a limiting factor. If not, then no change. If it is a limiting factor, increasing concentration will increase the rate of reaction up to a particular point, after which any increase will not affect the rate of reaction. It is because it will no longer be the limiting factor, and another factor will be the limiting the maximum rate of reaction. As the reaction proceeds, the rate of reaction will decrease since the substrate will get used up, it will be utilized, it will be consumed. Highest rate of reaction, known as the initial rate of reaction, is maximum reaction rate for an enzyme in an experimental condition. The substrate concentration, increasing substrate concentration may enhance, may increase the rate of reaction. Again, what we have seen in case with the temperature and pH. If we keep on increasing the substrate concentration, the rate of reaction will keep on increasing. But in this case, it will get saturated and it will form a hyperbolic curve. This curve or this line is not stepping down. If we increase or if we add maximum amount of substrate, so for example, an enzyme is converting 10 substrate to product per second, and we have added 1 million of substrate to it, and we have 10 copies of an enzyme. So it is not so that in that substrate concentration it will not function. It will function, it will work with its maximum efficiency and attain the rate of reaction or desired rate of reaction. But however, again, one thing is, as we may have discussed in immunology, antigen antibody interaction. So the concentration of, or again the type of antibody, the valency of an antibody, based upon that, in the same proportion we must add the antigen to it. So while diagnosis, we add a particular volume of antigen, we add a particular volume of antibody and find either the curve or the band or whatever the case may be. But if we do not consider the valency of an enzyme or valency of an antibody, so we may find if we have added excess of antigen or excess of antibody, that effect we call it as a Prozone effect. Same thing may be seen in case with this enzymes. Next is inhibitor. This is not the topic of fermenters today. I think we should stop here. If you have any doubt, any question, you can ask.